Hi, I'm Adam Levin from Chuck Levin's Washington Music Center, and today we're talking about the newest release from Shure microphones. Super exciting, the Shure MV7 podcasting microphone. So, the MV7 looks pretty familiar if you are familiar with podcasting microphones and broadcast microphones. It is the direct descendant of the legendary SM7B microphone. And probably one of the first questions you're going to ask is, how does it sound? Well, we're recording this entire thing through the MV7, and we have a lot of cool features to explore. We'll get into them, but I think first off, you're wondering, how does it compare to the SM7B? The SM7B is one of the most legendary microphones of all time. It's been used to record vocalists throughout the generations. It's found its way into thousands of broadcast studios and more recently tons and tons and tons of podcast studios. So let's do a quick comparison to compare how they sound, and then we can dive into all the features that the MV7 brings to the new world of podcasting. So let's check it out real quick. So right now we are talking into the Shure SM7B directly into the Zoom PodTrack P4 recorder. The SM7B is known for just being a really beefy, heavy-sounding microphone. It's got that voice of God sort of sound. It's present, it's deep, it's rich, but it's definitely a gain-hungry microphone. It takes a lot to make it sound its best, and you got to be right up on it so that it really sounds good in the way you want it to sound. It's a great microphone, and it definitely still has its place in the world, but the MV7 definitely brings something new to the table, so let's check it out. So now we're back on the MV7, and right away you can hear there's a little more clarity to the MV7. It's not quite as boomy in the low end. It's still got that nice presence down there, but it definitely has a little more top-end clarity and detail. So when we're thinking about podcasting and listening to AirPods or in our car or when we're walking around, it's going to cut through noise a little bit better. So it's going to be easier, it's going to be more intelligible, and it's definitely not as gain hungry. You definitely don't need a super preamp or a cloud lifter or anything else like that to make it sound right. The MV7 is also mounted on the same sort of microphone mount, just like the SM7B. So you can mount it on a boom and have it look right when you're doing video work. It can be mounted on a microphone stand, like so. Great microphone, and it's also a dynamic microphone, just like the SM7B, and that brings some features that are pretty useful in podcasting and broadcasting and streaming. It is directional, so right when I'm on the mic, I sound my best. I'm present. I'm right there. But as soon as I'm off axis, it's cutting the volume out, and it's rejecting all that unwanted sounds that might be happening around you if you're in a noisy space, or you might not be able to control. Maybe you're in an apartment or a bedroom or a basement or a dorm room or something along those lines, and you don't have total control of the room. The MV7 really does a great job of rejecting unwanted sounds from around you without needing to do a lot of editing afterwards to get that podcast finished. Right now, we're listening to the MV7 out of its XLR output straight into the Zoom recorder, and this is just how the microphone by itself sounds. But you might notice that the MV7 is not just an XLR microphone. It is the first dual microphone. By dual hybrid, I mean XLR and USB that Shure has come out with, and it is able to do USB and XLR recording at the same time. That means that no matter what you're using it for, whether you're going to use it for streaming right now, maybe you're at home and working remote and you want to be just really sound great, or you're doing streaming or podcasting using something like StreamYard or Teams or Zoom, it is super functional on its own. But when you can expand your podcast, or if you want to use something like a Rodecaster or a Zoom P4 or P8 recorder, you can use the same microphone, XLR, record it right in, and you're going to sound phenomenal. Now, when we go to use USB, it has a lot of other features. This is part of Shure's MOTIV line, which means that it can be used with computers, it can be used with iOS devices, and when you use it with a computer, it has some very cool settings that we're going to explore using the ShurePlus MOTIV app, and those settings actually get saved in the microphone. So if you do decide to use this microphone with your iPhone or your Android device, the settings that you set for the microphone will actually transfer over and stay with the microphone so that you can use it if you go mobile or need to use it in some other fashion or way. The settings are only used when you're using it USB. It is not used when using it analog, but like you can hear right now, it's a great sounding analog microphone on its own. But let's explore what this can do when we start using it USB. So now we're using the MV7 through the USB output directly into a MacBook Pro, and we're recording in Logic Pro X. And on the screen, we're going to explore the Shure MOTIV app to mess with some of the features that you can actually do to change the settings of the microphone and the way it responds to your voice. So first off, in the app, there's two main modes. There's auto level mode and there's manual mode. We're going to explore auto level mode first because it is super cool. It's like having your own audio engineer in your computer, working the mic for you, making sure that you always sound your best. In auto level mode, basically, it's like the app is going to start adjusting the gain for you so that no matter whether you get close, you get further away, it's going to adjust the gain so that you are still present, you're sounding your best, you're not clipping, you're not distorting. Even if you get a little further off the microphone, it's still going to catch that. So first off, it has a mic position mode. So you can set it to be near or you can set it to be far. So if you know you're going to be near to the microphone, you're going to be right on the mic, you like the look of it on the mic, you want to be a little beefier maybe, you can set it to near mode and it's going to not distort, it's not going to clip. Even if you get a little bit louder, it's kind of riding that fader for you and it's catching that so that you still sound really good without having to mess with volumes and gain settings as you're doing stuff, or even having to like set your own compressor or anything like that. It also has far mode. So when I get on far mode, I can actually be off the microphone a fair amount. I mean, I am pretty far away from this microphone, something that you could not really do with an SM7B, which is pretty remarkable. And the cool thing about auto level mode is if I start to get closer, you can hear that it actually catches it. It brings the level down a little bit so that I still sound really good. I'm not distorting. I'm not clipping the microphone. I don't sound gross or anything like that. But when I back off, that fader kind of moves back up and it catches me and I sound great. This is really super cool. Just below the mic position mode, we have some tone control. So it has 3 settings in the auto level mode. Right now we're on the natural setting, which is just very flat, very natural. It sounds pretty good. It's still got that beefy presence, but it's got that top end clarity. It has dark mode, which is going to make this thing sound a little bit more like that SM7B sound. It's got a little more beef to it. It's got a little bit more of that voice of God, that low end presence. And then it also has bright mode. So if you're in a situation where, maybe there's some low-end rumble or there's some music that you got to cut over on top of, bright mode's going to help you get right on top of that music so that you can still be heard. Intelligibility, all that intelligibility is really heard in that top-end frequencies. So in bright mode, you're going to come through crisp, you're going to come through clear like a studio microphone would, and it's just a flip of a switch. Now, if we go to manual mode, in manual mode, you are in complete control of all the settings, and right off the bat, you can tell that it sounds a little bit different. You have to work it in a little bit more to get it to sound its best. You have your own control of the mic gain, so you can drop it down. You might have to get up closer to get it to sound right, or you can crank it up a little bit. But we're not getting that hiss. We're not getting any of that hiss of when you would crank up a mic pre on record or anything like that. Super cool. You have a monitor mix, so you can adjust kind of what you're hearing playback from the computer versus what you're hearing directly from the microphone. Then we have some EQ settings. So it has a flat setting, which we're using right now. It has a slight bass roll-off or a high pass setting. So you can right hear that the high frequencies coming through. It's losing a little bit of that chest sound. And then it has a presence boost. So again, it's just cutting through more things that you could never really do with an SM7B. And then it has a high pass and a presence boost. If you really had to cut through some mix, if you really had to cut through some boomy, background sounds or something like that, and you really just wanted to make sure that your voice was coming through clear, maybe you're out and about or something like that, and you wanted to make sure it's sounding good, you're going to take the mic out in the world somewhere, and you're not sure how it's going to sound. This would make sure that you're always just going to cut through and sound great. We're going to go back to natural mode. It also has an on and off switch for a limiter, so you can make sure that if you're getting into a stream or a podcast, you tend to get pretty animated. You want to make sure that you're not going to clip out the microphone. You can put that on. And it has 4 different settings for a compressor, so depending on how you're using it and how lively you tend to get, you could set the compressor to be different ways. Right now we have it off, but if I just even put it on the light setting, you can already tell that it's going to beef up the sound a little bit, and it's going to make sure that even if I get a little bit louder, I'm not quite distorting the microphone, making sure that the recording is going to sound great the whole time. Other super cool feature about the microphone, let's go back to auto level mode while we do this. So we're back on auto level mode. We'll go back to far mode. Other cool features about the microphone. On the microphone itself, physically, it has a headphone jack right on the microphone, so when we're using it USB, we can plug right into the microphone itself, get direct monitoring from the microphone, which is great. You don't need an external audio interface. You don't need to have your headphones plugged all the way into your computer. You can do it all from the microphone. You also have some gain controls and some headphone volume controls right on the top of the microphone. And so you don't need to reach back over your computer or some other device to control the volume. You can just do it all straight from the MV7, dial it in, focus on your stream, focus on your podcast, focus on your content, and not worry about the sound because the MV7 is going to take care of it for you. That's it. It's a great microphone. It sounds amazing. It's hard to get pretty excited about a microphone release these days, but this is really a game changer. And in the world of microphones, to get something that sounds this good, that has this many features from a brand like Shure is remarkable. The SM7B certainly still has its place in the world. It is a legend. It is definitely not to be left behind. But for the world that we find ourselves in today, the MV7 is phenomenal. And coming in at only $249 when the SM7B is $399, this is an incredible value. It sounds great. It looks great. It has tons of features. And it also comes in 2 colors. So you get a little style picking out for you. Comes in silver, comes in black. Both are available right now. ChuckLevins.com. Time to get yours.